I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the tragic death of a 13-year-old girl named Madeline Soto. Her life was short and one that you wouldn't wish on any child. Here's her story. It's hard to imagine the world Madeline Soto was being raised in. Her mom, Jen Soto, and her dad have been separated since her birth, so Madeline was being raised in a single-parent home. Jen didn't work much, but had a 4-bedroom home in a nice gated community in Kissimmee, Florida, near Disney. But it was inside this home where Madeline's life was less than normal. There were other people living on and off inside. 2 of the bedrooms were rented out, and there was someone else who spent a lot of time inside that house. Jen's on-again, off-again boyfriend, Stephan Sterns. He was another adult who didn't work much. Now, Madeline went missing the morning after her 13th birthday party. But within a week, police found her dead 20 miles away. And they also found something else: pictures and videos of Madeline being sexually assaulted on Stephan Sterns' Google Drive. The investigation continued, and now Sterns is facing a potential death penalty for the murder of Madeline and charges of sexual assault that could also result in life in prison. Meanwhile, Madeline's mom, Jen, is free, facing no charges, and is the potential star witness for the prosecution. Every time I talk about this story, the case against Stephan Sterns and putting the pieces together, they sort of like make sense in a strange way that, okay, if in fact this is the killer and he's a pedophile, you can put those pieces together. The difficult part is for people like me comprehending the way the mother acted and reacted throughout all of this. Now, Jen Soto's been charged with nothing, but she was interviewed by police, and they were very skeptical themselves of her parenting and her role in Madeline's life, disappearance, and death. So I want you to take a listen to some parts of her interview, because there's a few things that she says here that, again, people have a hard time, myself included, really understanding.
I got home around 10:30. I started getting ready for bed myself. I started eating and taking my meds, because I have to take meds. I sent them to sleep upstairs in the guest bedroom so that I could get a good night's sleep. Suggested that we all sleep together in the same bed together, but not the easiest person to sleep with. She rolls around, she punches, she kicks. We have a king-size bed, and she typically sleeps on one side, and she'll end up on my side when we wake up. Okay. So I asked her, I'm like, no, please, I need a good night's sleep. If you guys can go upstairs and let me sleep, and go upstairs to the guest bedroom upstairs, because I just... he's not a very clean guy. He's kind of a little hoarder and a collector. So just my house was always a mess and never the way that I wanted it to look. It wasn't until June that he got his own bedroom and I sent him upstairs. That's where the requests for sleepover started.
Okay. I've got a lot of questions in this case, but she was just talking about the fact that she sent, again, this is her last night on Earth, right? Alive. She sends, hey, you guys, why don't you go upstairs? She sends Madeline, her just turned 13-year-old daughter, to bed with her on-again, off-again grown adult boyfriend, to the guest room. That brings me to our first question of tonight's investigation. What was inside the guest room, behind door number 4 in Jen Soto's home? Joining me, the creator of the Grizzly True Crime YouTube channel. You've got to check it out. It's amazing. Gisela K is with us, and psychotherapist and CEO of Life Counseling Solutions, Dr. Janie Lacey. All right, let's go on this tour together. Gisela, I want you to give us a little description of what we're seeing. And then Dr. Janie Lacey, we're going to have you jump in and give us, the significance of this, either in the life of the accused pedophile murderer or the life of Madeline or Jen. And let's begin with this lock on the door. Let's take a look at the lock. And Gisela, am I interpreting this correctly, that the lock is on the inside of the door?
That's correct. And there's a chain lock. Actually, that chain lock you see is on every single door upstairs. However, that silver lock above it, I don't know when that was installed, so that's different. And an extra measure of, I don't know what, locking Stephan himself in, or what's going on there. So it's important to note that each room had this chain lock, but that other lock is different, and the door knobs, I think, can also lock.
Right. So you can't get in from the outside. Well, I understand if you're renting out rooms, you're trying to make it kind of like a hotel, maybe that's part of the explanation here, but also could have other reasons. Now, I want to show you some things that were found inside the room. Gisela, this might be a little more difficult. Let's take a look at some of those pictures that we have. We've blurred out something in the foreground there, and the reason we blurred it out, and I'll say what it is, it's a male use sex toy. So it's something that a male would use to pleasure themselves with. Okay? That's as far as I'm going to take this. But what else are we seeing inside of the room on the table here, Gisela?
So another thing that's important to note is that that male use toy could also be a hairdryer. There's been some specific models suggested, but nonetheless,
really?
There was some very, yes. It was, I think, a Panasonic, a specific brand that my community had now identified. So I'm not too sure which of the two it is, but nonetheless, there were lollipops in the room, masturbation cream, one pillow. The bedding was stripped. Obviously, the TV and remote, I think that would be like, let's go upstairs and watch a movie, that, pattern. There was also a gun. This drawer that you see, inside that drawer, there was a 9mm Sig Sauer gun with live rounds in it. And in the room, I don't know if anyone noticed, there were those cherry Danishes that he talked about giving Maddie when she didn't want the McDonald's, as well as potato chips, a mini fridge, and Digimon cards.
Digimon cards. And I think I saw a Dungeons and Dragons book there as well. All right, Dr. Janie Lacey, we need some analysis. Apparently this is a room where Stephan Sterns is spending a lot of time. They refer to it as the guest room, but it looks like he's bringing his stuff in there. Gun, potential hair dryer or pleasure machine, some of those special creams, the Danishes, and we know this is where Stephan took Maddie that last night as well. What are your thoughts about what you're seeing inside this room?
Well, first, let's consider that this is Jen's house, and this boyfriend had these items in an open area in a place that he slept with her daughter. So to say that there was complete lack of suspicion or knowledge potentially of what her boyfriend was capable of would be questionable. And then we look at these items, we can probably make some conclusions based off of what we're seeing, so that someone cannot get in and there can be almost an intimidation factor for the person who would be in the room, which would be Maddie in that room with him. And all of these different types of toys, devices, creams, if he's not using them with Jen and she sees these things in her home and she knows that he's in the room with her daughter, I mean, these are all questions that she needs to answer and be responsible for, putting her daughter in a situation and not providing safety, security, knowledge of what's going on in her home, and questioning and confronting and creating boundaries in her home. So there's a lot of questions that should be asked of Jen based off of what was released in her boyfriend's room.
Gisela, as we continue to look at some of this stuff that was found, the table inside the room has some of those items we were talking about. But in the interviews that you featured on your channel, does Jen Soto acknowledge any of these items that we're seeing, that, like, knowing that they're in this room, whether it's the loaded magazine, the gun, the cream, the magic machine?
She really doesn't talk about any of it. I mean, even in that room, what's scary is we can see a blue shirt in some of those photos and a red shirt in the drawers. And the forensics unit report says that that clothing was featured in the CSAM found on his phone. So, but everything, all these very strange things in plain sight, she didn't run upstairs. I wondered about that from the beginning. Why would a mother, if your daughter's missing, not run upstairs and say, where did she sleep last night? Okay, she was up here. Now let's have a look around. Are there any clues? The roommate said that she actually ran downstairs and looked in Maddie's makeshift room and everywhere, but Jen didn't seem to do that at all.
How could that be, Dr. Janie Lacey? What does it take for a mother to be that detached from what is happening under your own roof? And it's a nice home, right? It's not a sprawling mansion. This is a nice, 2,200 square feet, and you don't know what's going on?
Well, Vinnie, you just said it. What would cause a mom to be so detached or have a blind eye to potentially things that are happening in her home? So when we look at cases like this, we would be looking at her own history. Was there untreated trauma for herself? Was there a passive being in relationships where she herself accepted abuse and accepted less than desirable behavior? So all of those things are going to take into account that at this point in time, for her to have a blind eye or to claim innocence or to claim ignorance to what was happening in her home would indicate to me that there is a history of unresolved trauma in her own history and probably a string of toxic relationships preceding him being in her life. So I do believe that there's some responsibility that should be held by Jen and taking consideration into all of her history that she would even place her daughter in this situation and not have boundaries and even sin that she admitted in the video that we watched to send her daughter to sleep with her boyfriend so that she can get sleep. I mean, it just makes no sense.
Okay, coming up next, Madeline was in the guest room with Stephan, but where was Madeline's room?
When he's not there, where does she sleep?
With me.
She never sleeps in her room?
No, always with me.
Sarah Boone is charged with second-degree murder after her boyfriend suffocated inside of a suitcase.
He's in the suitcase still.
There are multiple domestic violence incidents.
You two hitting each other.
Sarah. That's my name. Don't wear it up.
He's telling you, Sarah, I can't breathe.
George Torres locked inside of a suitcase, begging for help.
I thought he was okay.
The Suitcase Murder Trial. Live coverage starting Monday morning, 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Okay.
What are the sleeping arrangements?
He sleeps in.
Okay. Did she sleep in her bed Sunday night?
No. I was just back. I'd been away for a couple of months. We were in the same bed together, so. To get some serious sleep, so she said no to that and suggested that the guest room upstairs had been enough bed. So it's a little amount of time that would suffice and Jen would get to sleep in peace.
So you say snuggle time, what does that mean?
I like to be alone. She is extremely dependent. She does not like to be alone at all. She needs human presence around her.
Did you hear what Stephan Sterns said there? He said that Madeline, and it gets muted when they say the name, but Madeline usually sleeps in her room. Madeline usually sleeps in her room. That would make sense. 13-year-old girl sleeping in a room. Take a listen to Madeline's mom, Jen Soto, now talking about where her daughter Madeline sleeps. Again, anytime they mention the name, it'll be muted.
So the living situation with them, I'll be honest, seems weird. It's weird to me. She's got a bedroom downstairs. What's kind of the mindset or the thought process, the communication you've had with Stephan about, she's not going to sleep in her bed, but you guys are going to go sleep in the guest bedroom?
So originally the plan was that all three of us were going to sleep in my bed together.
When he's not there, where does she sleep?
With me.
She never sleeps in her room?
No, always with me.
So there, Jen Soto says, no, she never sleeps in her room, which, you know, is an issue in all of this. But let's talk about that room. Brings us to our next question. Where was Madeline's room? We know the guest room is upstairs. We know the master bedroom, where Jen was downstairs, but where was Madeline's room? Still with me, Gisela Kay and Dr. Janie Lacey. Let's go back on our tour here. We've got a photo here that shows us the kitchen, and I want to start in the kitchen here. And as we progress through the pictures, I think we're going to start walking through this kitchen. So this is all on the ground floor, correct, Gisela?
Correct. This is all downstairs.
And that's where the master bedroom where Jen sleeps is?
That's the master bedroom with a king bed, and to the right of this little dining table is Maddie's makeshift room, which has, as Jen called it, fake walls and these room dividers.
So right there, you're looking at, on one side, you've got like a little dinette set. You've got this makeshift divider, and on the other side of that is her room, which, and then if you look at where it is relative to the home, the next photo, that's the front door. You open the front door, boom, there's the dinette, and directly to the right is the 13-year-old girl's room in a house that has two people, a mom and a daughter, who are the full-time residents of this home living there, and it's got 4 bedrooms. Dr. Janie Lacey, let's talk about that for just a second. The fact that she doesn't want to sleep in her room or doesn't sleep in her room, and she doesn't have a real room. What impact could that have on a 13-year-old?
Well, there would be a lot of impact, Vinny. You know, when we first look at co-sleeping, we're looking at transitioning children out of co-sleeping as early as 4 years old. And when there are times where co-sleeping is still occurring, whether there's night terrors, these other types of things that can happen developmentally along the way, those things should be addressed. But the fact that there's co-sleeping and this 13-year-old who probably for a couple years was going through normal bodily development for a young woman, having a lack of privacy and having open-aired access, right? So there's so many different factors that would have impacted Maddie's normal stages of development, but also the huge one, just hearing the contradiction and then her mom describing how she's never slept alone, which would be a big sign that there's something that's not happening appropriately in this home, not knowing any other details. So that would have had to impact Maddie alone, and whatever that may have been, with not knowing all the other details. If she was to meet some therapist in the office, there would have been a lot of questions being asked to be able to dig deep and to address the standards of care and the standards of practices that were not happening in this house.
All right, Gisela, I want to put up some more images from inside now Maddie's room. What were some of the things that you discovered or noticed inside her room?
Well, one of the first things that really shocked me was that Stephan Sterns' boxer shorts were in the laundry hamper along with her birthday party dress.
Whoa.
Yes, and then that was also part of the CSAM evidence. That boxer short was part of it. They said that in the documents. You know what else is shocking? People assume the tripod was upstairs. It was actually downstairs in Maddie's makeshift bedroom drawer. So that was there. And this bundle of blankets, like as you see there, that could have been freshly washed. The roommate said she ran downstairs and she found that really strange. So there's a lot of red flags in this room. I wonder why it was even made. There's a computer with a webcam facing the bed. There's a tripod, boxer shorts, all kinds of strange things, and there's no privacy.
Yeah, why? That is an important point. Dr. Janie Lacey, would there be any reason to create a room for a child when you've got a guest bedroom upstairs? Is there a reason why maybe you want to have it downstairs where mom is? Does that make any sense? I'm reaching here.
Logically speaking, that would be asking a lot of questions to the parents, to the mom, as to the setup of this home, as to making this room, which is accessible, which is, especially if there's other rooms available to this teenage daughter where she can have privacy, you can teach her modesty, right? There's so many developmental things that when we look at the standard of practice for a teenage girl, that was not happening. So a lot of questions would need to be asked of mom, who is solely responsible for her daughter. And this is not what we would consider normal levels of development for a teen girl. And, you know, there are situations where people have multiple people living in the home due to economical reasons, these types of things. And those situations, we'll see where the children are staying with the mom or staying with the parents. But in this situation, there are so many things, as we just heard, with the camera having a grown man's boxers in this young girl's room. There are so many things that would need to be asked, because this would indicate to me this was the normal way of being in this home, that this probably was practiced for quite some time, just knowing these details alone that were released. And so there's a lot of questions that would be asked of Jen if she was to come into a therapeutic office and some of these things were disclosed.
Gisela, we have about 15 seconds left here. Anything else that you came across in that home that really struck you?
Well, if we're just talking about Maddie's makeshift room now, I don't know if you noticed the scarf and the brown liquid on the floor. I wonder what that is all about and why Jen didn't notice that. I mean, just the fact that Maddie's makeshift room is also by a sliding door, the least secure place in the whole house, is shocking.
Absolutely. Puzzling. Gisela Kay, Dr. Jane Lacey, thanks. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues. I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the death of 13-year-old Madeline Soto, a young girl from Central Florida who had just celebrated her birthday when evil struck. Here's her story. Madeline Soto was supposed to be off to school on Monday, February 26th after celebrating her 13th birthday the day before. Madeline's mom asked her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Stephan Sterns, to take her to school. He said he did, but Madeline never made it. In fact, the last time her mom, Jen, saw her alive was the night before, when she sent her 13-year-old daughter off to bed to sleep with her boyfriend, Stephan Sterns. Madeline was found dead later that week, 20 miles from home. Sterns has been charged with her murder, and he's also facing other serious charges: the sexual assault of Madeline over the course of 4 years. Prosecutors say they have pictures and videos of the abuse downloaded from Sterns' Google Drive. Sterns claims his innocence. Jen has not been charged, but there are still many unanswered questions in this horrific tragedy. And when this investigation began, detectives had a lot of questions about what was going on behind closed doors inside that home. And what happened to Madeline. So one of the things they did while they're interviewing Madeline's mom, Jen Soto, is they start asking her about, well, what do you think happened here? Take a listen to this part of the interview. Extremely revealing.
In your words, in your mind, what do you think happened that night into Monday? Because we do not know. I know if her murder occurred Sunday or Monday. All we know is that when you went to bed, they went to bed together, and she's no longer here. So I need to know what you think happened to her, how he got her out of the house, where he went, how he got her in the car, what is your thought on what happened?
I think she was killed Sunday night into Monday morning. I'm thinking he carried her out of the house. I don't know how he didn't get caught by any of my roommates or no one heard. If she is dead and it was done upstairs, I could just only imagine that he choked her. I don't know how else you would kill someone and not leave a mess.
How do you think he got her out?
I have no idea, because roommates come in and out of the house at any given point in the morning and we don't know their schedules. They can come in at any time. You guys showed me a picture, I think, of him or her in the car at 7:30 in the morning. My roommate left the house. She's the one who leaves the earliest. She left at 7:45. So, like, what if he had waited a little longer? She would have caught him with carrying a body out of the house. How did he do that without being caught or seen? So him leaving early in the morning and driving around aimlessly somewhere, I feel like he stashed the body at that time when he came back and then left again. But see, it's daytime. Like, how could you move a body or move something in daytime and not be seen? But, like, I feel like he went back to check, to make sure he did a good job, or to move the body again. I don't know. But him leaving the house multiple times without his cell phone is sketchy. It's so suspicious.
This is fascinating to watch and to listen to on many different levels. First thing that bothers me, though, is that she's referring to Madeline, her daughter, as the body. Okay, that's a problem in and of itself. But beyond that, she has a lot of questions about and acknowledging, like, in this house, how could this possibly happen? Because there's other people living here, not just me. There's other people. Brings me to my next question. When did Madeline Soto die? When did that happen? At what point? Was it before she left the home? Was it the night before? Was it in the morning? Was it later? Was it in the car? I think it's a pretty important question. Let me bring in my guest, the creator behind the Grizzly True Crime YouTube channel that has so much information about this case. Gisela Kay is with us. Also joining us, former Memphis police officer, retired DEA Special Agent Ted Golden. Thank you both. I want to begin to go through a little bit of a timeline and break down some of the parts of this. And it really begins when Jen sends Stephan and Madeline to bed, which is, again, another one of these bizarre facts, but that's at around 11 p.m. on the 25th. That is that Sunday night. And then the following morning, February 26th, 7 to 7:15, Sterns claims that he and Madeline wake up. I want to begin there, Gisela, because why on earth would they wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning? My understanding, school is much later for her.
According to Jen, school starts at 9:28. Stephan says he's not a morning person. Jen does not describe Maddie as a morning person, so that makes no sense. And if we look at the timeline, we can work it backwards, where police said that they believe that Madeline left the home deceased, so she was carried out, she had clean socks on, and that at 7:35 a.m. she was seen strapped into Stephan Sterns' dad's car. Visibly, they said she looked deceased. So if you work backwards from there, taking rigor mortis into account and things like that, Jen is pretty spot on. It's almost like she's psychic, saying sometime in the early morning hours of February 26th, I would speculate between 2 and 4 in the morning is when it would have happened.
Let me ask you, Ted, in trying to put this all together, right? You've got to put the case together. You're working a homicide case, you got to put it together. If you're going to be in court, you're going to be in front of a jury, they're going to want to know, well, when was the murder? When did Madeline Soto die? How important for you as an investigator is this? And in this case, how difficult is it to give a precise time?
Under normal circumstances, they give a range, and usually it's between 2 and 4 hours. And usually, when you get the body, you look at it, especially given it was a short period of time before or a couple of days before they were able to find the body. But you work backwards, and you try to look at the condition to which you have observation, which is when she's in the car, and what kind of movement the body was made, and whether or not when he stopped was there motion. And then of course you look at the condition of the room and whatever other information you can find, the bodily fluids and all that stuff, gives you an idea of a time of death, especially when it's been a couple days. You still can look at some things and determine certain information that helps you to be able to set the time of death, and especially with the amount of backwards looking video surveillance of the vehicle, where he went, what he did. Those things play into it, and it also gives them an idea of, if he left at 7 o'clock, they went to bed at 11, looking at a range there from 4 to 6 hours, so that's reasonable.
You know, I'm going to get back to that timeline, and I'm going to kind of fill in the gaps to where Gisela took us, because I think that's spot on. 7:30, 7:45, that's when Sterns claims that they actually leave the house. 7:35, this is a significant moment. Sterns is spotted at the apartment trash compactor throwing a white bag away. Madeline is visible in the front seat with her head slightly tilted. And then we get to 7:50, he's spotted driving away with Madeline fully slumped over in the car. And at this particular, and we're seeing some of these photos, at this particular subdivision, they do have cameras at the trash compactor. You can see it there right on the right-hand side. Like, it's amazing that there is a camera at the trash compactor. Don't usually see that, but in this case, Gisela, it's there. So that's another important part of putting the timeline together in doing this sort of backwards work and trying to figure out when she died, because he is seen at 7:35 there throwing something away, and she is seen inside the car with the head tilted, which could mean she's dead at that moment.
Yes, the police have stated that they believe that she was deceased at that moment, that it wasn't a natural position for her to be sitting in. Her mouth was open and she didn't appear to be breathing, so they said they believe she was deceased then. What's also interesting about that 7:35 timestamp is that's sunrise already happened. That was around 10:07. So to think he must have obviously carried her out of that apartment before then, sometime in the dark. And then we work it from there.
Now, there's one other thing I wanted to show everyone, which was the Sterns Telegram activity, the Telegram app, that encrypted anonymous app where one of the executives of this company is actually under arrest, I believe, in France. And this is from Gray Hughes Investigates. And what Gray tracked down was that around 11:49, he's on this app. And that tells us, if all this pans out and prosecutors are able to use information like this, that he's awake at 11:49, he's on this app. Why is he on this app? Ted, it seems like that could be another potential important avenue of this investigation if, and that's a big if, you can track down and figure out what activity is going on this encrypted app.
The great part about digital information now is that it is verifiable. You know, once he goes into a system, that information is coded and it's kept there until somebody erases it. So we're looking at a circumstance where this man's digital footprint has been documented, looks like for most of the day when this incident happened. And anytime he was seen or documented having done things, it's there. So he can't deny it. And then there's no way to get around it. So this investigation, I think, will result in a plea. I don't see this man going to trial with all this information, especially given the fact that they show her body in the car.
Still to come, Jen Soto was asking this question. We're asking it. Did anyone see or hear anything?
And we can now piece back her victimization in your house under your care to 2020.
4 years?
Minimum. That's just how that far back the cloud goes.
One of the most successful true crime TV shows ever.
This is crazy.
Now has a new home on America's original true crime obsession, 48 Hours, on Court TV. Coming up next on Court TV.
Tell me in your own words, and in as much detail as you can, what happened that night?
and it was done upstairs, I could just only imagine that he choked her. I don't know how else you would kill someone and not leave a mess. Carrying a body out of the house. How did he do that without being caught or seen?
And that's a great question. Like, because there's other people living in the home. They're renting out rooms inside her home. So Jen herself, down on the bottom floor, apparently, according to her, didn't see or hear anything. But how could he do that? But let's remember this also. Let's remember this important fact. The crimes against Madeline are not limited to what happened to her that night. There was atrocious conduct taking place over the course of years. Take a listen.
I can tell you that today, they're still downloading his Google Drives. We are still going through his social medias, his cloud-based servers, and everything else. And we can now piece back her victimization in your house under your care to 2020. I believe you've gone as far back as in when she... So when I ask, they've woken up cuddling, did you find things suspicious? Did you have an open relationship? He talked to you? Has he made inappropriate statements?
If I knew anything, I promise you, I would tell you. Like, I am willing to take a lie detector test, whatever the you want, but I don't know anything. He's never mentioned anything. I've never seen any signs. I tried watching her like a hawk. I thought I was doing a good job, but I wasn't. I was oblivious to everything. 4 years?
Minimum. That's just how that far back the cloud goes.
We're talking about at least 4 years of this atrocious, violent behavior and abuse of Madeline. So that brings me to my next question, because it's all taking place under the roof, under her own roof. Did anyone see or hear anything here? Anyone? Jen Soto, a relative, people living in the house. Did anyone see or hear anything as this little girl is being victimized over and over and over again? Still with me, Gisela Kay and Ted Golden. I wanted to put this up on the screen because Orange County Forensics describing, I think, important facts about where this abuse could have been. During the search, Orange County Forensics was present, photographed the residence, and collected numerous items of clothing and bedding which were identified as being in contact with the victim during sexual abuse. Most of the items were collected from the downstairs bedroom and divided off sleeping area in the living room. Some additional items were collected from the upstairs bedroom, identified with a number 4 on the door, that guest bedroom. So it seems, Gisela, the abuse that is being photographed and recorded on video is taking place with items associated throughout this home.
Which is a few feet away from Jen's room. Like, how asleep was she if this was taking place, usually in the early morning hours? Some of the evidence shows it was, sometime around 3 a.m. when most of the abuse would occur. Right there in the living area, essentially. There's only room dividers. So how did she not hear anything? How did no one else hear anything of that going on? Is already one question.
Yeah, to me, that's a huge question. Ted Golden, I want to put this up on the screen. This is from apparently the night of the murder, according to prosecutors. Angelica, who's living in the house, stated that she went to sleep around 2:30, which is when she was hearing noises coming from Stephan's room. She described the noises as if someone was putting stuff on a table, which in order for her to hear noises, it would have to be significant based upon the noise would have to travel through 2 closed doors and across a hallway. Is that significant to you, Ted? And are you shocked that this level of alleged abuse could take place under that roof and no one is saying they saw or heard any of it?
It is a good sign that someone heard something, and that's an advantage to the process, because then that gives you an idea that there was some movement during that time period, and again, it fits within the window of the time of death. The fact that there are other people in the house and abuse was taking place is not unusual. One of my old cases in Memphis when I was a cop on the midnight shift was a man who was a boyfriend of the grandmother, actually confronted 3 of the grandmother's daughters in the house, and then ended up sexually abusing a 10-year-old during the midnight hours. So they did not hear what he did to her. And believe it or not, I had a rookie officer with me. He could not question a young girl because it hit him so hard. But you understand how these things happen, especially when you're the one taking initial statements on the scene and you ask the right questions and you get legitimate answers. These were, one of the girls, one of the adult females was her mother, and the other 2 were her aunts. So this man was able to confront all of them in an effort to try to have sex with them during the nighttime. And then he finally ended up in the bed with a 10-year-old that he was able to convince to allow him to do certain things to her while everyone else in the house was asleep.
Wow. I want to put this up because this is from the morning of the murder, according to prosecutors. Angelica, again, one of the people living in the home, stated she saw Stephan in the residence at that time. Angelica said Stephan was acting odd and going upstairs and downstairs and in and out of the apartment that morning. Stephan was also washing clothes, which she has never seen him do. Yeah, he's a slob. Gisela, to me, this is also significant, extremely significant for everything involved here. He's frantic that morning, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, she said in her audio interview that he looked nervous, but she also clarified, and I must clarify, that she heard those noises from 11 until 2:30. I was shocked when I heard that. It wasn't just at 2:30. It was from 11 till 2:30. The light was on. And yes, the next day she heard him going up and down the stairs and doing laundry and looking ultra nervous and not quite himself. So there was quite a lot of activity going on.
Yeah, looking at this slovenly human, Ted, he's not the kind of guy, oh, I'm going to start the day off, I'm going to do some laundry, get a lot accomplished today. To me, that is evidence that he is attempting to cover something up.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, he's not the kind of person that you would think would fit into this category. But obviously, with the things that he's been doing with this young lady, young girl, it's atrocious. I'm curious, though, Vinny, what does he do for a living?
Oh, nothing.
When does he work?
He does not work. He doesn't work. He was supposed to go down. His parents had a job for him, and then all of a sudden, we don't need you. Unbelievable. Gisela K, Grizzly True Crime on YouTube. Please check it out, folks. She's got everything about this case. Ted Golden, always great to have your insight and experience. You know, it's mind-boggling to believe that a child could be sexually abused by a man inside her own home while after her mother told them to sleep together alone in another room. Those are the allegations here. Mom's sending him up there. He's abusing her. Madeline's mother is supposed to be a key prosecution witness, and the jury will have to figure out, based on her testimony, in part, what was happening in that home and who was responsible. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.